What's going on, everybody? This is your host, Blazt The Speakerz. Tonight, on the next Fight Talk episode, we're discussing Shotokan characters. Ryu, Ken, Akuma, Sean, Sakura, Dan, so on and so forth. You guys know. These were the Street Fighter main characters that everybody loves to play as the Shotos. Okay? Tonight, we're going to deep dive and we're going to go into why we use these characters, why we like to play with these characters. We're also going to talk about their backgrounds, their origins, how they evolved over the different games, things like that as well. Now, with me tonight, I have multiple special guests, and some even making their debut. But I'd like to bring out a familiar face. Unfortunately, my right hand man, the utility man, could not make it tonight. I give him all the respect. I love him. Without him, it's not the same, but we have to do what we have to do. And my man, last minute, I give my man a shout respect to Shaft of Pleasure. What's going on, brother? Thank you so much for standing up and coming through last minute. I really, really appreciate it. How you doing tonight?
What's up, Blast? I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, I know Utility Man didn't want to come today because we weren't talking about Blanca. He's like, nah,
Tell him.
unless we're talking about Blanca, I'm not into it. So I
that's
understand.
that's exactly what it is. He's a Blanca and Dalzim guy. That's what it is. And he was like,
Yeah.
no. He's like, Shotos, I ain't coming. Forget it. Forget it. Forget it.
Exactly. But
So
I don't play a lot of Shotos, but anybody who plays Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom, whatever, everybody plays against Shotos a lot. So everyone's familiar about Shotos.
People,
so
I think they're more like is it more like a fan favorite when you with that? Like a lot of people, I really like when you really think about it. Street Fighter circled around Ryu. He's like the main character for the most part, right? Like I would say that's what a lot of people go with. Like that's my favorite character in the Street Fighter franchise. I mean, he's not here to pick at me for all of that and start saying, "Oh yeah, you play with this character. He's your main," and blah blah blah, blah like he always does. So
yeah, I mean, some people probably pick him because he's the protagonist. A lot of people pick him just because the gi is cool. I don't know. I feel like it's just a lot of people's starter character. And a lot of people stick with it.
He is. I mean, we started with Street Fighter 1. That's really what it was. It was like if you played as Ryu in Street Fighter, if you played player 1, you were Ryu. If you played player 2, you were Ken, from what I remember back in the day. Now, I didn't play that in the actual arcades. I played Street Fighter 2. That was my first Street Fighter game, to be honest with you. I got to check out Street Fighter Street Fighter 1 later on. That's what it was for me. So
me too.
But see, like people are calling me out. Like Bloodside says, you always gravitate to Ryu. I'll be honest with you. My very first character, and I think I've said this on the previous stream, was Blanca. Was Utility Man's favorite character, and then I moved into Guile because they're really pretty much for the most part the same with regards to being a charge character and stuff. So Red6, who's in the back, by the way, we're gonna bring him out shortly. Says just did a $20 super chat. Says Shotos are the greatest. That's what he's saying. But yeah, no. I started off with that, and then I gravitated towards Ryu because I don't know. There's something about him. Like I think the character himself, and all of that is just pretty cool for the most part. We got my man Leg saying Blanca Chan is the best Shoto out there. Utility Man agrees, I'm sure. I'd like to bring out, speaking of Red6, who just did a donation, this is his first debut on a live talk show stream, or at least on Fight Talk for the most part, I would say. So I'm going to go ahead and bring out my good friend, Red6. What's up, my man?
What's up, guys? How's everybody doing?
Or should I say it properly? It's Red6. You want to correct me on that?
No, it's fine. I prefer anything. I've been called Six. I've been called Red. As long as nobody butchers I'm fine.
Now that wasn't your original name. That's your
No,
new
I've
name.
had
You have
a
a
lot.
different name, right? You got
Yeah,
Carl.
I've switched through a decent amount of names.
Now you're more of a first-person shooter type of guy, but you've always played Street Fighter and you've had some love for Street Fighter, and you're big
Oh yeah.
on Street Fighter Five. And I've been playing with you a lot, as well as the old man Tides that's out there in the background,
Yo, Tonka.
who's also been playing that. So you got some people giving you some love, saying "What's up, Red?"
What's up,
Uh,
everybody?
we got some people out there saying Shoto is their religion. That's what's up. Okay. Okay. So what's your take on Shotos? And you prefer other characters or you prefer Shotos? I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but I'll let you.
Yeah, more or less anybody that's ever played with me knows that I think that's actually all that I play. I don't really touch or deviate from other characters because ever since I started playing Street Fighter, the very first few characters that I had seen being played were Shotos. So that's just who I learned first. I never deviated from that, and I've always had a love for the characters. It was just so cool watching them fly into the sky when they do their dragon punch, and seeing that blue little fireball in 8-bit fly across the screen. It's just
Yeah.
there's a lot of nostalgia behind it, and then I don't know. It's something I just refuse to. And Street Fighter 4 came around. That's really what brought me back. I played a lot of Akuma.
A lot of people
Street
come
Fighter
back
5.
before.
I play 3 of like the 6 or 7 Shotos that are available.
Okay.
I don't know. I just have a love for them.
I'm going to go around later on, and I want to ask everybody what their favorites are and why and what. And I'd like to deep dive into that more. But before I bring out our other special guest of this evening, is there anything else that you'd like to add on or say while you have the center stage?
Yes. Street Fighter 4 Akuma is significantly better than Street Fighter 5 Akuma. Shout out Bloodtide. That's it. Nothing else to say.
Now, see, that's something. Okay, now Dustin, you're more of a Street Fighter 2 guy. Now, have you played Street Fighter 5 or Street Fighter 4 like that?
Yeah, I've played them all a little bit, but never got competitive at them. But yeah, of course, I've played all of them a little bit.
So this is a whole, like, in our Discord server, Bloodtide and Red6 are going back and forth with regards to how the comparison between Akuma in Street Fighter 4 and Akuma in Street Fighter 5. So Jeff is agreeing, and he says Street Fighter 5. So I didn't know Naxukao played Street Fighter 5. That should be interesting to check out later on. Now, I have my own take on this. Now, Dustin, you did mess with Street Fighter 4 and 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's any opinion on this whole Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5 debate of Akuma? You care about your opinion on this, or not?
No,
really?
I don't really have a strong opinion there.
Okay.
I didn't play it enough to really get intimately familiar with the characters and how they would compare.
Okay. Before I bring up my man Sean, who's in the background, I'm just going to answer this real quick. I'm going to give this a non-biased answer. Okay. Street Fighter 4 Akuma, I feel like, is probably the best version. If you brought no, let me rephrase that, because when I said best version, you see this man below smiling. He's like, exactly.
No. It's not that. I'm looking right back at the chat, and I'm ready for Bloodtide to just.
So what I have to say about Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5 is Street Fighter 4 Akuma is like if you look at the evolution between Ryu, Ken, and Akuma, right? Akuma is really, he embodies something like a mix of both characters, plus he has additions to him that make him stand out more, like the air fireball, and there's so much more in his arsenal when compared against Ken and Ryu. Now, that's the best way I could kind of explain it with regards to Street Fighter 4. I felt like he had more to offer, and that's why when CS Vagrant and I made a video back in the day, we felt like we did those combo videos. We had a dedicated video to Akuma just for that sheer reason, and he's shaking his head because he was around to witness a lot of that when we did that back in the day. Now, when it comes to Street Fighter 5 Akuma, I like to think it's an evolution of Akuma. Like, yeah, the whole thing with the appearance and the line look, that's just to me that's silly, the whole Akuma Matata. But with regards to the moveset and regards to the way he plays, it's a whole different ball game. Like with that Akuma, I felt like he has a lot of options. So in a sense, what Bloodside is saying, like he's better because he has, more things to offer. In a sense, it's kind of true as well. It depends on how you look at it, is what I'm getting at. Like if you look at the evolution and all of that, the move set and the options that you have in Street Fighter V give Akuma a whole different vibe and a whole different look. They did the same thing with Ken. Ken is significantly different from Ryu in Street Fighter V as well. So my take is that these characters have evolved, and I'll leave it at that. And with that, I'm going to bring our next guest out. I'm going to bring out Ultra Sean, who's out there in the background as well. And he's been waiting for a while. This is also him making his debut on Fight Talk. So I'm bringing out Ultra Sean. What's going on, brother? How are you today?
What's up, guys? Good to be on Fight Talk.
Thank you for being patient with us and for hanging out there in the background, holding your tongue, being like, what the hell are these guys talking about? I know more about them. I know this, I know that. I want to. So what's your take on this whole, Dustin, he touched a little bit in Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5. And he said, what about yourself? Did you get to play around with Street Fighter 4 and 5? I know you guys, both of you, you're more Street Fighter 2 guys, but I wanted to get your opinion on 4 and 5 as well.
It was mainly the same, I think, as what Dustin was, where we played it, but it was just something that you didn't really take, I guess, super seriously. Well, from what I can tell you, though, is that I actually agree that 4 Akuma was pretty sick, and his first few iterations, and he had these crazy vortex mix-ups and all that, and in 5 it was a significantly different character, would be the best way to put it. 4, he was much more a Shoto with a very good rush down and mix up heavy. He had all the Shoto tools, but he can rush you down quick, and he was super heavy mix up. 5 just changed it to where he wasn't so much a Shoto or a prototypical Shoto anymore, and you saw it in the tournament results and things like that nature. Like you saw Tokido playing Akuma in Street Fighter 4 was completely different than Tokido playing Akuma in Street Fighter 5.
Oh yeah, I remember the crazy 80-hit combo or something like that he did. When we were messing around with Akuma, it was like you did the focus attack into the crumble. Just as he's crumbling, you could get Demon out. That was like sick. When we I feel like, I don't know if we were the first ones to discover it. I'm not going to take credibility like that, but that was definitely something C.S. Vigran and I did, and we were messing around.
Yeah,
and it was really I think it was Ultra when they gave Ryu the Shin Shoryuken. We wanted to find a way to link the true Shin Shoryuken and not just do the BS where he's just rising and getting a couple of hits coming up or whatever, right?
Correct, yeah.
We wanted that animation, if you will. So we were figuring out ways to do it, and the crumble was how we did it. And the crumble was also what we realized worked for Akuma to do the Raging Demon as well. So it's tricky with timing, but it's a lot of fun once you can pull it off.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that. In that game at least. So so it kind of sounded like you agreed with more of Street Fighter 4. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, as far as I'll tell you. So first off, what's up, Jeff? Just see him in the comments there. The true power of Akuma was going to be Super Turbo Akuma, and there's some reasons for that. But since we're talking about 4 and 5, Street Fighter 4 Akuma he's just a beast, man. I mean, I think he took a little bit more damage, but what he could output it made up for it. You got those. Once he got you on a knockdown, he could come in there and are you getting hit from left or right? And it was hard to tell sometimes. So good players were able to take advantage of that, and man, can really trash their opponents just like that. The Street Fighter 5 version of it was just toned down a bit, and he had a much more direct, straightforward attack pattern. But in 4, there was just so many tools that he had to use. You can play him like a Shoto, and you could play him actually similar to how I use my Vega, where I'm just flying back and forth, and I'll choose a side and I'll try to fake you out to make you think you're gonna get hit in this side, and then I'll slip past you and hit the other side. For Akuma was very like he did that a lot, man. It was tough.
Yeah, I felt like there was a lot more that you could do
Yes.
with them too. I'm not going to disagree on that. I do like the things that you can do with Street Fighter V as well. Like I felt like it was creative with what they did with Akuma and with Ken in that. So I have to give it to them on that. But if I had to choose, if I was going to play with an Akuma, it would probably be the Street Fighter 4 one. I'm sorry, but I have to give him that. I do agree on that. I didn't want to choose a side, but it's true. Now, I'm happy you brought up the original intent with Akuma. And this is a topic for Shoto, so let's focus on Akuma for a minute. The original design, the original creation was in Super Turbo, right? We all know that's where he came and debuted it. But I'd like to bring the Alpha series out. So, like, to me, like, when you think Shin Akuma, which is referred to as Shin for true Akuma, it's, I think, also another debate where it's like, which one was the true Akuma? Was it the Super Turbo one, which is the real original release? Or there is, like, I'll tell you, the hardest Akuma that I've ever played was Alpha 2 Gold. That on the Sega Saturn, bro, I will tell you, that Akuma had me sweating. Like, that was the toughest Akuma that I played. Like, I don't know how you guys feel about that. Like, when you think Shin Akuma, which is the true Shin Akuma, and which one gave you the hard time? Because even in Street Fighter 4, the way they made Akuma, they brought him out like a hidden character. The same with Goken and all that too. It's actually who I forgot to put on the cover is Goken, but you guys get what I'm saying. So I'll go around the room. I'll start off with Dustin. How do you feel about this, man?
Yeah, I got to go with Super Turbo Akuma. He's
Okay.
just he feels invincible in the right hands. I think there was some pro-Japanese player who kind of pushed him to the limit, and yeah, if you know how to abuse, yeah, he's banned for a reason. If you know how to abuse the bad things about him, it's really tough.
Okay. Red, how are you feeling about this? Which is your ultimate version of Akuma? Is it Street Fighter 4? Because you always keep talking about that. Or is it like, let's go back a little further?
I think the only other time where I really struggled to fight against an Akuma was Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2 Akuma. I mean, he has a lot of options in that. What I liked about it was, you know how when they did the Street Fighter, Street Fighter 4, there was like a mini anime where they showed Ryu fighting Akuma. I don't know if anybody remembers that or saw that. There was a thing where he did the air fireball and it came out like the way they did it in Marvel too. I loved that. I thought that was a cool concept because that was something in the Versus series. Like, my favorite, overall with the air fireball is his version in the Versus series, like in the Marvel Versus series. I see my man Doobies out there. He just gave a super chat, and he said Sean is the best Shoto ever. Okay, we're gonna get to Sean. We're just focusing with Akuma for now. So and then you get.
He may as well have said Dan was the best Shoto.
I don't know. Like, Sean, listen, Sean has options too. Sean is a pretty creative and cool character. I'll leave it at that. But I'll even ask Sean, who's with us today. We'll see what his opinion is. But so your best version would be what, Red6?
My best version of what? Huh?
Of Akuma.
Best version? Street Fighter 4 hands down.
Street Fighter 4 hands down? Okay. No. Sean, how do you feel? You going to agree with Dustin on Super Turbo or?
Well, best is always, there's always lots of interpretations as to what that means. So if we're looking at it as just the toughest opponent, I guess, in the highest level hands, it would likely be either ST or how you're saying the Alpha 2 Gold version of Shin Akuma. And the reason why is, so I'll talk about it from an ST perspective real quick and how that works out. So you have your standard Shoto archetypes. You have the fireballs, you have the hurricane kicks, you have dragon punches, and you have his normals and whatnot. Okay, so the difference with ST Akuma, and the reason why he's a hidden character, is like one of the first like true legit like hidden characters, is the fact that he has his air fireballs they kind of break the game, because the way those angles are, the way the air fireballs come down and what angles they come down from, the rest of the cast isn't really equipped to deal with that. So if a really good Akuma knows exactly what he's doing, he can keep those Shotos, or not just Shotos, but all the other characters in some sort of lockdown, and they're gonna eat a bunch of chip damage before they can even get in, or they're gonna land on some air fireball that just happened. They can't jump over it; you have to block it. He also has a lot of options. He has very good hitboxes compared to most of the regular Shotos. He has, I believe, he has a fireball lockdown that it recovers so fast that you can continue it as the opponent is still like blocking. And he also has instant no dizzy, I should say. Once he gets dizzy, he's instantly out of the dizzy. Even if you're actually playing as Akuma, it'll happen. It's not just the CPU. Even if you're playing as Akuma, the opponent knocks you down to get the dizzy off you, you stand up, you're instantly there. So you can't get dizzy, right? And then he also has some tricks where he can use his Tatsu's the hurricane kicks, and then you can juggle him into the dragon punches. So he just has so many options that the other ones, they either are lagging behind, or they just aren't equipped to deal with the things that Akuma does. And it's mainly the air fireball, though, because it controls so much good space. If you look at it, let's see here if I can it controls this space right here. Okay, just like that. Now the other characters, they can deal with a fireball coming from here to here, right? Just going straight. You can jump over, whatever. But when you have a fireball coming like this, straight down there, now the options are a whole lot more limited, and you're either forced again to eat it, to block it, or put yourself in a situation in which he's going to be able to start getting the jump on you before you've even recovered because of that fireball. So that's the name of the game. And then so going on to the Alpha 2 version of the Shin Akuma, he's very much that, like, that's what he was based off of, was the ST, the powers that he had in ST, versus the original, the non-hidden character version in Alpha 2, which was very toned down. The fireballs, they lagged down, they had a weird arc. So I would say they're probably on even terms, because they were both meant to be super secret characters that broke the game essentially in the right hands.
I will tell you, I remember when I was playing against good Akumas and things like that, I remember the one thing I was doing was actually getting hit by that air fireball just so that I can get in, and I would hope to respond in time. But the beautiful thing about Akuma, especially in Turbo, is that he's so fast that you're stunned by that air fireball, and he's already in the next thing doing an actual combo. So you got to be really careful with that. So I totally agree with you on that. Now, you did say Alpha Gold, okay? Street Fighter Alpha 2 Gold. Now, I'd like to bring that up. Like, that was my favorite interpretation of Shin Akuma personally. When I read about the creators of Shin Akuma, the intent was for him to have 2 air fireballs, from what I recall. And that was where they actually brought that out, and they gave him that in Street Fighter Alpha 2. Now, again, I'm talking about Shin Akuma. Regular Akuma had that fireball that was just coming straight down, so it was different. But Shin Akuma, oh man, that was a whole different ball game. So, Sean, since we're still kind of talking about that, you mentioned Alpha Gold as well. What are your thoughts about that? How do you feel about that double air fireball? That I feel like that made him far more superior to the Super Turbo one. That's just my opinion of it, but I wanted to get your take on this. And then if you guys, Dustin, Red, feel free to jump in and tell me what you guys think as well.
Yeah, Sean, I think you might be muted.
Oh, is he?
There we go. Okay, all right, yeah.
Okay.
So just controlling that space with those 2 air fireballs. So now you have ST Akuma has the 1 fireball. Now you have 2 to deal with, and now that's even more space that's being put up by him. So while those fireballs in the air, Akuma can do whatever setup that he wants to do, because you can't deal with that. And so that can lead to a lot of situations in which it's just inescapable as far as that goes. So definitely like lives up to the lineage of like, this is a right, proper hidden character that's, that's in the right hands. Cause you have to have a specialist that's going to go in there and eke everything they can out of that. But when you get that, then that's when you start to see, okay, this is why this is a hidden character. And this is why this character is not like really played in tournaments, because he's just far too good. The other characters just have no chance,
I want to get to the whole hidden character thing too, by the way. But I'm going to read a comment. Bloodside said, which they gave him in Akuma in Street Fighter V. What he's talking about is the double air fireball. Now, Akuma has a single air fireball, if I recall correctly, but he has the double air fireball only when he activates his V trigger, only when you're utilizing that. So I feel like that's not a true, like, yes, don't get me wrong, but I feel like Alpha 2, for example, he always had that double air fireball. It was like you couldn't do anything. Man, I remember playing as that character, and that was my favorite one. I would do double air fireball, jumping back, double air fireball, jumping in. It would get me 4 hits, and then it would come in, and I would do an actual combo right after that, whatever it was, like something simple into Tatsu, into SRK, but like it was badass. To me, that was the most badass version of Akuma. That's just my take on it, just because of that double air fireball. I felt like that made him OP. That's just my opinion, guys.
And the arc that it came down to as well was that same straight down arc.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
It was
totally
basically at a diagonal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
But
that's the thing that I noticed that they removed in some iterations, where, because with Shin Akuma you can jump forward and back, and there's some versions of Akuma where you can only jump forward doing the air fireball. If I recall correctly, Street Fighter 4 gave the option for Akuma to do the air fireball backwards as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, Red. Or was it just forward?
I think in 4 it might have been just forward.
Okay, because I'm thinking, like I have to double check, but it's been a while since I played 4, so that's why I was asking. Since you've been pretty adamant about that being the best version of Akuma, so I didn't hear anything about 3. I don't know how you guys feel about Street Fighter 3 Akuma, because Akuma in Street Fighter 3, the difference is that he had that move where he would call up, and smash the ground and all that, which I thought was pretty cool too. And it's only, I think, no, he does have that in 5, come to think of it, but it looks different, because in 3 you get that whole purple wave all around him, and in 5 it's just like a single big explosion coming up, So we've got my man Eddie out there. He's saying, well, a true champion has joined us tonight. He's another champion out there, but he's more on the Marvel side. But I got to give Eddie respect. Like, he will play any game. He won't care. He loves to play, and he will play any game, and he doesn't care whether win or lose. He will give it his best. So shout out to Eddie Good. But yeah, that's how I felt about that. Like with Akuma, it's true. It's like, it depends on perspective, really. So coming back to him being a hidden character, do you guys feel like he was created because of that whole hype of Shenlong, coming from Ryu's quote, "You must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance"? Like, I know I'm going to bring this back. Like, it's not a true character that came out, but I know you guys know what I'm talking about, and then when Akuma appeared in Super Turbo, they were like, what? Who the hell is that? Like, my thought process was, that's Shenlong when I saw it. But then I realized and learned that it's not Shenlong. His name was Akuma and all this other stuff. But would you say that was what kind of created Akuma? Like, what do you guys think about this? Dustin, I'll go around the same order. Dustin, what do you think, man?
I don't know. Maybe this is heresy, but I never really cared about the lore or the story behind it. Like, I know what you're talking about with Shinryu, Shin Akuma, and Shen. Like, I know what you're talking about, but like,
exactly.
I never really cared, so I don't really have an opinion.
You were more like, all right, this is what they've given me. This is what I'm working with. That's it, right?
Yeah, for I was never into Street Fighter for the storyline. I was just in it for the for the fights.
So there's a lot of that's one thing I did want to bring up today, a little bit of the stories as well, but because I'm into it all. I'm into the game. I'm also into the lore. There's a lot of people that are just into it for the lore and they're not that into it for the game. Like it depends. Everybody's different. So I like to touch up on both. But we really, the four of us, we play these games too. I've even had talks with Utility Man, who I'm shocked to this day has not seen the Street Fighter 2 animated movie. Now, if one of you guys says that you haven't seen it, I'm just gonna drop dead right now. Have you guys all watched the Street Fighter 2 anime? Please tell me.
Yeah.
Looks like you're gonna have to drop dead, buddy. I'm sorry, I have not.
Hold on. I'm kicking him out. Hold on. Here we go. He's out.
Would you rather me lie to you, sir?
We've changed orders. So because of that, Ultra Sean gets to go before you, Red Six.
That's fine.
That's your punishment for today, sir. So Doobie actually brought up a good thing. He said, Guy is my favorite in the Alpha series. Now, yeah, he was a Shoto too, I would say. Because he is technically a Shoto. It's what is it, Boshin, or I forgot his style. Correct me, guys, if anybody knows. I'm willing to bet Doobie knows this, or he'll look it up and he'll post it in the chat. I'll highlight it. But yeah, no, Guy was pretty cool too. Like, really, they brought the Final Fight guys after the, into the Street Fighter Alpha series, and I'm happy they did because I thought those characters were pretty cool too. So I have to give them that. But Sean, what did you think about the whole thing with with him being like a secret character? Do you feel like the whole Shenlong thing influenced Akuma?
Well,
what was your take on it?
I mean, if you just look at the overall development of how the Street Fighter 2 series went just in the beginning, and most of the stuff wasn't quote unquote original. There were always things that were taken from other sources that ended up putting together this game that we love so well already. So like, for example, like if you look at a lot of the music, okay, like a lot of these songs were songs that were actual songs in real life, and the composers heard that song, said, hey, this will be a great theme for this character or whatever, and so they kind of mixed it around a little bit and changed a few chords and bars here, and now all of a sudden, bam, now we have this other iconic song that sometimes it might have even surpassed the original one. If you look at I think it was Guile's stage theme, and we have, I think it was Traveler. I forget if that was the actual band or the name of the song, but like that's clearly where Guile's stage theme came from, was this 80s song, right? So with that being said, when you would have that the whole publication, this EGM deal about like, oh my God, there's Shenlong's in here and all that, there is definitely a possibility that the developers had been looking at what was on the streets and on the ground and what the word was, and saying, okay, well, there's just this big rumor out here that there's this. So when the next game comes out, which would have been ST, hey, let's make a character that's secret, that's kind of sort of loosely based on this, and then see where it goes from there too. So yeah, definitely a possibility.
I could see that too.
Yeah.
There was, I even remember reading up about like what influenced certain characters, like Zangief, for example, was an actual real wrestler that they used as kind of like a template, if you will, and even the designs all came from somewhere. Shout out to DJ Oak. He's out there in the chat. That's another Street Fighter champion that's out there. So respect to my man.
What's up, DJ? Yeah, and Zangief's original name was going to be Vodka Gobalski.
Yeah, I think I remember that. Now, you are more of a Zangief guy, so you would know that for sure. I know you know Zangief like inside out.
I love Zangief, but it's just always been funny to me to like look up the real names, like Edmund Honda, or like Blanca's original name was Jimmy. It's just funny.
Yes, I remember the whole thing with Jimmy. Now, What about the whole thing with Ryu Hoshi? Have you guys heard about that one? Ryu
No.
Hoshi. Hoshi was apparently the last name for Ryu. I don't know if that's true, but if you guys Google it and look that up, that's something else that I remember seeing. So there's a whole thing about Ryu, and I'll get into that. Like, he's the whole lore part of it, at least. But Red Six, coming back to that question, do you feel like Akuma was conceived based off of the whole Shenlong thing? Or actually, Sean, were you done? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
Jump.
it's okay. I was gonna try, and I don't know if you guys can see this on here, but we're just talking about the Street Fighter series, really borrowing from real life and from what's going on. So I have this.
Oh, you can actually share things on here.
I don't know if
There's
you guys see it on this deal right here, but this is Sagat stage in real life. It's a real thing. It was
Oh,
the
the
old
map.
Oh,
capital
that's
of
pretty
Thailand.
cool. That's pretty cool. I could see it.
Yeah.
Sean, uh, look in StreamYard. You'll see that there's a present button. If you click on
okay,
that,
great.
if you click on that, you can actually share your screen if you want to show anything you'd like to show, my man.
Awesome.
You can bring
okay.
that up. I'll let Red answer that question in the meantime while
Sure.
you do that.
Sure.
Go ahead, Red.
You're not gonna be happy with me.
You're gonna say Street Fighter 4 was your thing.
No,
And
no.
that's where you started. Because that's a
No,
whole
no.
generation, actually, for a lot of newcomers. It's true. There was a whole gap where fighting games were kind of in the dark at one point.
Well,
the dark ages.
this isn't entirely relevant to the fight talk that we're currently having. But even when I didn't play Street Fighter, I played Mortal Kombat. So fighting games was still something in my back pocket. It's just not something that I continued to explore, and it's definitely not as serious to me as Street Fighter 5 is.
Okay, so go on.
I honestly don't know. When you asked me, do I think that Akuma originated from Shenlong? I never kept up with the story, and I have no idea.
So let me educate you on this, since this is something that you may not be familiar with. In the Street Fighter 2 games, they had a whole thing where he reused quote when he would win a match. You know how they would have the two faces. One would be the winner. One would be the one that's all bruised up, defeated, and whatnot.
Yeah,
right?
I remember that.
So he had a winning quote where he said, "You must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance." It was translated incorrectly. What it was supposed to say is, "You must defeat my Shoryuken to stand a chance. You must defeat my Dragon Punch." Was really what the interpretation was supposed to be. But they wrote Shenlong, so a lot of people read that as, "Oh, was that his master? Was that where he's coming from?" And this is why I also kind of wanted, and I swapped you and Sean a little bit on purpose, because I know Street Fighter 4 is your game. So I want to talk about Gouken next, because the whole appearance of Gouken, if you look at Shenlong, and I can bring up some pictures of Shenlong, but I would expect the people that have tuned in know what Shenlong looks like. He looks a lot like Gouken, or rather Gouken looks a lot like him. So the whole thing was, people thought that Shenlong was Ryu's master, so that they had that image in their minds of this is what he looked like. And the image that they had was, what was it, GameFAQs, or what was the news article that ran that created that April Fool's joke? You guys remember what that was?
That was in, I believe it was a 1992 issue of EGM.
EGM, thank you. EGM was it? Electronic Games Monthly. That was the article. So the thing with Shenlong came from there. Thank you, Sean. And a lot of people had that image in their mind. So when they created Gouken as a character, they used that as the design, from what my understanding is. Because if you look at him, he looks just like Gouken. So, and the first true appearance was Street Fighter 4 Red 6. He was a hidden character that you can unlock in Street Fighter 4. So I guess working my way backwards now, what did you think about Gouken? Since that was the character that, he was in your game, Red 6.
See, here's the thing. In my honest opinion, with Goken, he was. I always, if I'm not mistaken, they were brothers, correct? If I remember this, because I remember this in the
Akuma,
storyline.
okay, storyline goes is that Akuma and Goken were brothers, and they both trained under the same master. And
And I
Akuma,
remember Akuma killed his brother, right?
yes, that's correct.
Now,
That's
when I
correct.
finally did get to play Goken, I was kind of disappointed. I expected him to be slightly better.
Well, it depends. I mean,
He didn't have as much versatility, in my opinion.
there are some pretty good Gokens. I've actually played as Goken, and I can play you in 4 using Goken against your Akuma probably, but I'd prefer to use Akuma, I'll be honest with you. Akuma, so Goken is literally designed to be backwards
Exactly.
of Akuma.
That's how it felt.
So, like, you know how we talked about Akuma's air fireballs coming down mid-screen? You got Goken shooting them up
Yeah.
in the opposite direction. Now, when you think about that, that's more like it's good for characters that are like very jumpy, that like to jump at you. But
Like
there
me.
were some things that Goken could do, especially some corner stuff. Like I did some combos. I did some combos with Goken, and I even can specify, particularly when I did a Street Fighter Assassin's Fist video tribute. I did a Goken combo in the corner where I'm doing multiple fireballs that kind of keep them leveled using those air fireballs, and then I finish it off with the Shin Shoryuken. But yeah, it was also fun. Like Vega and I, when we worked on the Akuma video, we did some things where we wanted to show Akuma and Goken facing off. So it was like we would do the fireballs, air fireball and ground fireball, so it would meet halfway, things like that. We had some fun with that. I remember back in the day. But yeah, I mean, he's not as badass, I think, as Akuma, maybe.
He's nowhere near as badass because I feel like, you know how there's a yin and a yang? I feel like Akuma would be the black portion of the yin and yang, and then
Well, that's
exactly what it was. They were like opposite. So I guess it was because I started with Akuma and playing Akuma, seeing all that he had. When I finally got to play Goken, it was like,
well, yeah, he's backwards.
yeah, entirely. And I was like, this is not what I was used to or familiarized myself with at all. So it was just.
I think they did that on purpose, to make it interesting and all of that.
It definitely was interesting to see the juxtaposition between the two.
Oh yeah, I agree. I'm gonna go to Dustin, and then I'm gonna go to Sean because I think Sean's ready with what he has to show. But I'm gonna go to Dustin and get your opinion on the whole thing with Goken. What do you think about Goken, man? Have you ever messed around with Goken before?
Yeah, I liked playing Goken.
Okay.
It was just kind of fun to troll around with the upward fireball, and like Red6 said, just kind of the having the polar opposites. The Akuma versus Goken fight was pretty funny.
Yeah, when the fireballs would meet, that was cool. I always was like, okay, he's shooting them upwards, this one's shooting them downwards. It's kind of cool. Yeah. Sean, you want me to share the screen, or do you want to say something before I do that?
Well, so go ahead and share the screen real quick. So, okay. So just right here, this was the original April Fool's. It wasn't the entire magazine. It was just a one-off deal. Yeah. But if you look down there, like you can really see that is really the prototype for what would later become Akuma. So Capcom, this is what I was saying before. Capcom probably took that and said, okay, maybe we should, we can figure something out for that. And Akuma later would become a part of this because of something as innocuous as just an April Fool's, one-off, one-shot of Street Fighter. The thing is, though, is that Street Fighter was so big at the time. I think a lot of people today don't realize how big it was. So this was huge news to like everybody that was, I would say, 20 and under, I guess. Like it was a big thing. It was a monster thing. And the rumors really ran rampant. And if you also look at the rest of like the requirements to unlock it, it's also kind of similar to what you would use to unlock Akuma 2 as well. You know, you got to make sure you win without losing a round the whole way through, this and that. So that theory, what you have just said right there, is likely. I mean, it's right there. You know, you can already see the even that screenshot at the bottom shows. You know, switch it out with the red hair, and you got Akuma. You know, with the short hair, you got Akuma there.
Yeah, let's say I said it right. Used it as inspiration. That,
yes,
I think is the best interpretation of that.
Definitely.
Agree.
And as far as Goken goes, okay, all right. So you can go back to the regular one. As far as Goken goes, I actually played a little bit of him in 4, and he wasn't a typical Shoto, that's for sure. I mean, he had a fireball, you know, he had a weird dragon punch that kind of shot you forward, and he did have like the hyper fighting tattoo where he just would go straight down across the screen. But the way that he was used, really didn't resemble much of a Shoto at all. It was a different interpretation about it. But I think actually that was the nice part about him, was the fact that not only did you have Ken and Ryu, you also had Akuma, and then you also had a character who was different than the typical Shoto. So if you were kind of tired of just playing, you know, just mindless fireball characters and this and that, Goken was a decent choice, because like Dustin said, it was kind of cool to mess around with them and see what tricks and stuff that he had. That, you know, the gameplay was very different than your typical Akuma. They were meant to be opposites. I believe what Akuma used the power of if I remember, was the Satsui no Hado.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
The Dark Hado. Satsui no Hado.
Yeah, and then what was it? Goken used the power of nothingness. That's what it was.
That's correct.
Meaning that the zero motion, you know, you just no all logic, no emotion. That's what it was supposed to be. You know,
that's how they say he survived the raging demon, the instant hell murder that Akuma does, the Shungoku Satsu, if you will.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, or for those that are tuning in and not familiar, Akuma does the move where he grabs the character, screen goes completely dark, and you just seeing a bunch of hits occurring. What that is actually was also when he came out the very first time in Super Turbo. That's what you saw. Bison getting instant hell murdered. That was the thing. And then you know, you would face off and fight him, because you were like, what the hell just happened? You know.
The best part about that was that once Bison got murked like that, he was dead the rest of the match, still there. You know, while you were fighting them.
He was dead on the ground.
Laying on the ground while you're fighting Kuma.
No, I don't remember if it was I love the drawing. He wasn't even like laying like the way he would normally lay. They didn't put him on the ground like where everyone else was laying on the ground. They had him like a little off to the side, like forward facing,
a little bit like, forward. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it was like he was out of the way, if you will,
but still like 2 feet away from where the actual fight was happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. But I guess for me personally, I thought Goken was cool. Story and lore wise, oh man. I would say if you guys haven't watched Street Fighter Assassin's Fist, it's a live action movie. They also do have an animation called Street Fighter Generations. I feel like Street Fighter Generations and Street Fighter Assassin's Fist are very similar with regards to their origin, where they show you Akuma's journey into the darkness, if you will. They also talk about how the relationship between Goken and Akuma, how Goken was teaching Ryu and Ken, all of that is there as well. In both, I would say the live action Assassin's Fist and Street Fighter Generations, the animation. The animation focuses more on Akuma and somewhat on Ryu. I would say it's really more for Akuma, but I feel like that anime probably inspired the whole story for the live action film. So shout out to those guys with the live action film. I've met them. I'm actually friends with some of them on Facebook. They're really good guys. And if you haven't seen Assassin's Fist, I would definitely recommend watching Assassin's Fist. It's a good movie.
I'm looking at the comments right here, and Legs was saying Street Fighter 2 was the mainstream title ahead of its time. People who didn't know about the game knew about it.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually do want
Sure.
to mention on this that he's absolutely right. Like, so for a lot of people that are listening that may not understand what Street Fighter 2 was about, the game was, it was not only was it revolutionary, but it was a huge mainstream thing. And just like you said, your grandma knew about it. She didn't play it, but she knew who Ryu was. You know, there was, it was just, it was so big at that time. And it, when I think a lot of people right now, you're going to hear a lot of people upset about the Street Fighter 2 nostalgia. And you know, I hear a lot of rumblings about like, oh, how come they don't focus on 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever this type. And we're talking about strictly nostalgia, like releases and things of that nature, right? Not just games, but just like, you know, when you see a sneaker crossover, it's usually like Nike X Street Fighter 2. Okay, so the thing about that is, again, like I said, a lot of the younger crowd may not realize how big it was. So they're pining for the Street Fighter 4 nostalgia, and the amount of people with that, we would say, would be like, okay, here we go. Here's your amount of people with the Street Fighter 4 nostalgia, right? It's still a pretty niche thing, but then when you have the people, that amount of people that knew what Street Fighter 2 was, there it is. Like it's just so much more. So I do want to touch on that.
It's a different generation, I would say.
Yeah,
I'm sorry
a
to
lot of
interrupt
people are
you.
like, why do they keep focusing on Street Fighter 2 and this and that? Because what they don't realize is, man, it was just too big of a game, and it was so groundbreaking and generational that a lot of people, even if they weren't video game players, they knew what it was, and they were like, yeah, I know Street Fighter 2 and this and that and this and that. So so for that comment, yeah, let's I want people to know that this is the reason why you have a lot of the Street Fighter 2 nostalgia, is because it was just so big and so just groundbreaking, and it really took the US and obviously other places by storm. And I mean, like, by storm. You couldn't go into you can go to a 7-Eleven, any movie theater, any arcade, any as long as there's a place that would fit an arcade machine there, Street Fighter 2 was there. That just absolutely, that's what it was. So it was that crazy. You know, there was so much hype and so much everything about it. The aura was just too much too. So just want to get that out of the way.
Shout out to my man Jeremy. He's out there in the chat. Follow your dreams. Check him out, guys, too. He says he's like, Street Fighter 6 still has the World Warriors, you know, the original 8 for that reason alone.
Yes.
I totally agree with him on that too. I think the whole thing with Street Fighter 4 and why a lot of people are like, oh, like Red 6, for example, that it's his main game that he got into. It's like I said, different generation. Like, you have to also account, there was like close to a 10-year gap from what I recall between Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter 4, if I'm not mistaken. So shout out to Yoshirino Ono, who brought back Street Fighter. He brought back Street Fighter 4. So we got to thank that man for that. I had an opportunity to meet him once, so I was honored to have met him. But yeah, got to give him respect where it's due, you know. But I totally agree with you, Sean. Street Fighter 2 is the OG. Street Fighter 2 is what, you know, was the biggest thing back then. But I also understand the Street Fighter 4, where it basically brought back the whole series. It brought everything back. So a lot of the new generation, or a lot of the newcomers, for them, it's Street Fighter 4 and moving forward. They don't know about the whole Street Fighter 2 and even Street Fighter 3 and Alpha and all of that other stuff. You know, it's like me talking about the Versus series. Like, when you think about Marvel versus Capcom, when you hear that, immediately your mind goes to part 2. You're thinking about Marvel vs. Capcom 2. You're not thinking about Marvel vs. Capcom. You're not thinking about the games that came before that. You had Marvel vs. Street Fighter. You had X-Men vs. Street Fighter. You had all these other great games that I think a lot of the kids these days don't know about. And I'm happy that we have companies like Arcade 1-Up and, you know, we have Fightcade and all this stuff to bring back that nostalgia that for us, because we're like in our 30s and 40s, right? We grew up with these games, and these games were like our childhood. So having these games come back into our lives, I feel like, and having the retro gaming in general is a beautiful thing. Like, I personally, like, my favorite game is Marvel vs. Capcom 1. But I have a favorite Street Fighter game Although lately, I'll be honest with you, like I am been enjoying playing Street Fighter 2, a lot of it. Like I know combos, I know how to do things, and I will sit there trying to get a combo out, and once I get it and record it, I'm done. But what you guys know, like Sean, Dustin, you guys play these things like religiously, like the way I used to play Marvel vs. Capcom. So I actually, like when Dustin started doing the whole thing with the league, I really was hoping to get more back into it, and that's why I started joining like Steps and other people that are doing Street Fighter 2, because I really want to get back into that and enjoy that game, because it truly is a great game. But I do want to bring it back to the Shotos, and I want to go back to that. So we did cover Akuma, we did cover up Goken. So staying on topic with regards to the original Shotos and all that, I'd like to focus on Ryu and Ken. So the style, like when I remember reading the comics and reading the books like EGM, everything, they refer to Ryu and Ken using Shotokan. That's why they're referred to as Shotos. And Shotokan is an actual karate. Shotokan karate exists because I studied it. I'm actually a second degree black belt in Shotokan. So I know all about that. And I felt cool as a kid. It's like, oh man, I'm studying Shotokan. It's the same style as Ryu and Ken, like that was my thing. And I felt good about it. Now, for those that don't know, Shotokan means empty hand. And that's the whole thing with karate, empty hand. Actually, no, Shotokan means something else. Karate means empty hand. And I can go into the whole thing about that, and I'm not going to. But shout out to Gichin Funukashi for creating Shotokan. So it was the whole thing where Ryu and Ken, Shotokan. That's why we call them Shotos. But later on, I think they changed things. And this is what I want to get your opinion on, guys. I know some of you are not into the whole lore, and this is more of a lore type of discussion. Would you say like it should be Shotokan, or this whole Enitaskin with regards to Assassin's Fist? What is your take on this? I think, Sean, you're the one that probably be the one to answer this. Dustin, I don't know how much you know about this, if you want to touch up on it. Red, how do you feel about that, man? You're kind of quiet over there.
I'm lost, bro.
He's like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm a Mortal Kombat player. I don't even belong here.
Yeah, you
I'm
lost
here for
me
the
with the
Shotos.
Shotokan.
No, I know. When I was younger, I went and I learned karate and I did boxing and I did stuff like that, but I never really did. None of my it was never a discussion about what karate actually meant. You know what I mean? Nobody ever really said anything. But now that you're teaching me, I'd been in a dojo so many times, and never not once did they tell me that karate, for example, meant like
Empty hand.
open or empty hand.
So
like
karate means empty hand in Japanese, and the reason why it's called empty hand is because there's a whole story about it. I won't go too deep into it. I'll just say it briefly so that you and anyone else that's interested knows. And if anyone feels like otherwise, feel free to correct me or chime in. But to my end, from what I know and from what I've learned, because I actually studied it, and I actually have a degree of being a karate sensei. I went to Long Island University and studied this stuff. So back in the day, there was an emperor that ruled the lands, and there were a group of farmers that they would come collect tax, and life was just unfair and just. So what they did was they learned how to fight against the emperor and the evil army, so to speak, using empty hand. They wouldn't have weapons. Like they had swords, they had all these things. But the farmers rose up, and the farmers learned how to fight with empty hand, which is where karate came from. But they also learn how to use their farming tools. That's why, like in karate, you have like a bow, you have a staff, you have all that stuff. Because like you imagine using a rake, for example, and using that as a weapon. Those are the things that they developed back in the day. So I hope that gives you some insight, Red6, and we can talk more about that later. And if anybody else that wants to add on to that or chime in to correct me, feel free at this time. I saw Sean shaking his head. Dustin's kind of quiet over there, but if you guys want to throw in something to that, that's cool. Go ahead.
Oh no, well what I can say about that is that at that time, that was also, martial arts were very big, very very big deal, and so the whole thing about the karate and all that was like the it was the a product, I guess, of its time, and it was also the same concept of where, like, yeah, everyone knew what karate was. You had nothing to do with Japanese, nothing like that, but you still knew. You still saw all the ninjas, and you see all the difference between ninjas and then this and this and this and this. These were at life, back in the late 80s, early 90s, things like that, where you really, there was a big emphasis in that type of stuff too as well. So a lot of people, yeah, got involved in it. Some people even were able to deep dive into lore and all that. So yeah, it was definitely a good time with all that, because you got to know something, other cultures that you wouldn't have normally come across. Yeah,
Now,
that's the best way to say it.
Now, Sean, since you're on the lore with me on this, and I know these guys are both sitting there like, okay, guys, move on. Let's get to the other things. But real quick about the lore, how do you feel about that? Like, do you think that it was Shotokan originally, and then they evolved it into that because of Akuma and all of this for the Enisatsuken? And I see my man Follow Your Dreams actually just wrote Enisatsuken. I didn't have one feeling one way or another. Everyone just called them Shotos, but maybe Capcom wanted to go with something not based on reality because they throw fireballs. That's actually true. That's where it is where it came from. I think that's where the whole Hado comes from, if you will. But they talked about it as the murderous intent, and they gave it as an origin story for Akuma. From what I've researched, read, all that stuff. That was my take on it. Sean, what is your thoughts on this?
Not a whole lot, to be honest with you. Just that, once something gets started, and then of course if it gets popular enough, now you actually really, that's when you have to start building up on the lore and all this and all that, because not everybody is going to go into that game playing it as just a hardcore gamer. I'm doing it because I'm going to tournaments and this and that. There are also a lot of people that do enjoy story. They like to go out there. They're sitting there. They want to see what the ending is. They want to see, what's Ken's ending. It's sometimes it's not always about the competition, but it's about the experience for them too as well. So obviously, Capcom took that and said, okay, well, this is working. We got a couple of karate masters, and now what's their backstory? What kind of karate do they practice? What kind of martial arts are they doing? What kind of moves are they working on? So yeah, it just kind of snowballs from there. And if you look at all these really successful games, there is a pretty good amount of backstory and lore into them that they have put together. Again, to help appeal to people who are not always like, oh, this has to be about competition. They want to just have a nice gameplay experience and learn more about the characters and this and that. So yeah, definitely Capcom realized, okay, well, we need to come up with something, and they got it together and figured it out. And I think for the most part, it was cohesive enough. I think that they made a good, lasting impression on a lot of people due to that type of deal. I mean, you have to have talented people that are writing those type of things. You're not going to get just some dude to just write out this thing. You really have to focus. You really have to have a good focus on this and a good grasp and all that in order to make sure that it's not that it has to be like perfectly in line, but just as long as it works well enough and it's interesting. That's the main thing. Is as long
I agree.
as yeah.
I think there's different audiences and stuff like that. There's a great YouTube channel for just, I would say, lore alone. If anybody wants to go check that out, Street Fighter Verse. It's a YouTube channel. We're also talking with them. We're good friends with them, and they've got a lot of great content for Street Fighter. So it's definitely something I would recommend if you're into the lore or want to learn more about it. I would say definitely check out Street Fighter Verse on YouTube. Now, coming back to Ryu and Ken, because they are technically the original Shotos. Would you say? I mean, Street Fighter 1 is really where it started with them, and they had the original moves. They had the Hadouken, they had the Shoryuken, they had the Tatsu. They had it all. So, And look at how that has actually stood the test of time. Is all I have to say with that. But going around, like I know, like I don't. We can talk about Ryu and Ken for a long time. What I like is in Red Six again with you're actually in this chat. You do know that, right? You could just say shout out to the original Shotos. But
I
you're
don't
like
want to interrupt.
you're more you're part of this. You could say something. You do know that, right?
I want that message displayed so that Blood Tide will come and see that just right there.
Shout out to the OG Sotos, Red Six.
There you go.
There we go.
I highlighted it for you. You happy?
Yes. 100%.
So, I think the original Shotos have gone a long way. Like, look at the way they've evolved from the games. And that was the one thing that I just wanted to touch upon these two characters, and then we'll move on to the other ones. I feel like when you started with Ryu and Ken, they were literally identical copies and clones. Like Street Fighter 2 is where I first saw it, but yeah, even in Street Fighter 1, they were identical. They just different color palette, different hairstyle. That's it. That's all that there was to them. And with Street Fighter 2, I actually liked it when Ken had the Tatsu that would go quicker in Hyper. I liked it when they started to introduce their super moves, like in Super Turbo. So they focused Ken having the flaming Shoryuken. Ryu had the stronger fireball. You know, I thought that was pretty cool, and I like how it evolved. Where like in Street Fighter 5, Ken and Ryu are like completely different. Like, yes, you've got the banana hair for Ken, but aside from the banana hair,
Disrespect.
just saying, I know how much you love Ken in that game, and I do too. But the point is that they really evolved, and that's the one thing that I wanted to say. And if you guys want to bring something else up about Ryu and Ken, go ahead. But that's my take.
So
go ahead, Dustin.
In the beginning, like you said, they were almost identical. They started diverging a little bit in hyper fighting with the Tatsus, and Ryu has a little more invincibility on his Tatsu, slightly faster fireball recovery. But it wasn't in Super Turbo is really when they started to diverge and become unique characters, and then totally different supers, different overhead moves. And then, it just diverged even further from there, like you said.
Quick question for you. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Would you say that the Tatsu was the only thing that differed in Hyper? Because I feel like that's not the only thing. I feel like Shoryuken did differ as well. You want to touch up upon that?
Yeah, the two big and obvious ones are Ken's bigger Dragon Punch and the Tatsu's being different. But no, there's lots of subtle differences in recovery times and invincibility frames and stuff like that, where at a high level, actually, they are pretty different.
They are.
Ken has a couple like nasty air Tatsu combos he can do versus tall characters and things like that.
Oh yeah, because he has that multiple hits, and it's not a straight knockdown like with Ryu for the Tatsu. But I'm happy you brought up the Shoryuken, because I know that there's a huge difference with that. Like Ken, I feel like will go more across with his DP than Ryu, for example. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of that, because I know you and Sean are really the experts with Street Fighter 2. But that's what my observations were.
Well, that's right for hyper fighting. Ryu's Tatsu goes longer distance. Ken's DP goes longer distance.
Okay. All right. So I see Jeremy out there saying Gotetsu, Goki, and Goken. Ryu, Ken, Dan expelled, Sean, sorta. The line so far, kinda. I think Ken gets more interesting as the series goes on from a design perspective and story. I totally agree. What is the... Okay. I'm going to acknowledge that in a minute, Bloodtide. Oh, my God. Okay, go ahead, Sean. I think you wanted to answer something with regards to
so I'm looking at Follow Your Dreams comments on here. So in the beginning, let's see if I can just TLDR this one, not make it too long. But so just like how you said, in the beginning, it was just a straight palette swap. It was a way, for two-player mode to be activated. And instead of just having, we'll just, put the gold hair on, put the black gi on, or the red gi on, and there we go.
Yeah.
In the original War Warrior, the main difference was mostly that Ken's his kick, his roundhouse throw. The roundhouse throw went the majority of the screen versus Ryu's, where he just did the regular Tomonagi and threw him over.
Yes, I
That
remember
was
that
the
too.
main.
That's another difference. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the main difference. I believe even the Tatsu on both of them, Ryu's didn't knock down a World Warrior. It was, I think, in Champ Edition when they added that. And then moving over to hyper fighting for that one, this is where we actually start to see the difference between the characters. And like so Dustin, obviously, it's common knowledge now that Ryu is higher than Ken in hyper fighting, like the tier just a little bit above Ken. And even though it's a subtle thing, you see why this is the case. And so theoretically in hyper fighting, Ryu completely shuts down Ken's fireball game because and this is when we're talking offline thing, Dustin. This is what about the tournament and all that, right? We see this. You'll see this a lot offline versus online because the timing differences. But in hyper fighting, Ryu, because of that invincibility he has on his Tatsu, when Ken starts chucking fireballs at him, Ryu can actually walk forward up to the point where the fireball is about to hit him, and then hit the Tatsu, and then blow past that fireball, and then hit Ken on the recovery. So again, theoretically, Ken can't even toss a single fireball on Ryu because of that invincibility on his Tatsu. So if the Ryu is good enough, he can walk right up he can walk up straight up to Ken, and Ken chucks a fireball, and boom, he blows through with the Tatsu, gets knocked down, and then continues it on there. That's where you already started to see the big divergence of the characters. The Champion Edition had some stuff too as well, but since I think the most tournament played ones are Hyper and ST, I'll just kind of focus on those. So you started seeing that on ST and on Hyper. Then on Super Turbo, they diverged even further, and this is what Follow Your Dreams was mentioning. So if you look at the characters again on paper, they had fireballs, they had dragon punches, they had the Tatsus, right, the hurricane kicks.
Yep.
But then each individual application of that was completely different to that specific character. So if you look at a character like Ryu, so in Ryu in Super Turbo, Ryu is he's stronger. He's a stronger character, and he has a few reasons for that. But one of the main ones is that his super. Okay, so we'll say his super. He gets the Shinku Hadoken. Once that super is stocked, now all Ryu has to do is just bait a jump from Ken or really anybody. Just bait the jump. Just sit there and pump down on the thing and pretend you can do a dragon punch or something. Here comes a jump from Ken, and now all Ryu has to do is just pop the super, and it has invincibility in there, so Ken's going to get hit. Bam, 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 bam. So if you look at Ken's super, which is the double dragon punch, the Shoryurepa, now that one has a much more limited utility because you can't. So if the opponent jumps at Ken, he can also hit that, but there are also a lot of opponents that can get a jump and land before the Shoryurepa hits them. So Ken has to be a lot more crafty in how to use a super. So Ryu has super, Ken has super. Who's more dangerous in ST? It's absolutely Ryu, because in any situation that super is going to be able to hit, and Ryu can work that. Versus Ken, where his Shoryurepa, it's mostly used as if you can get it into a combo, you can get a combo started, and you can do the short, and then you can do a cancel into the super. That's where its main utility is. But for Ryu, man, he can use it off of anything. He can juggle it. He can do a jumping, medium punch in the air and catch him in the air. And then on the way down, he can super, get another 4 hits off of that. Let me see here. Some more what he was saying about like Ken's crazy kicks. He gets an overhead, and he gets these kicks that kind of move Ken forward slightly. Ryu doesn't have that. He doesn't have that. He does have an overhead, but it's a little bit different. But the way that you play Ken, like when you see high level Super Turbo play, Ryu is much more a fireball zoner character. He's the one that's chucking a lot of fireballs, and really that's the whole point, is to get the fireballs, get your super, and then whenever the opponent moves, he can just plow through anything. Versus Ken, where Ken is actually much more of like a real like flashy type of character, and Ken's in there for combos, and the fireballs aren't as effective as Ryu's, and he's not really meant to be used as I'm just going to chuck a shitload, or part of my language, a hell of a lot of fireballs. You know, he's not gonna. What Ken's trying to do is Ken's trying to move in so he can start knee bashing you and working on loops and things like that, which is completely different from Ryu's game plan. You know, completely different.
I didn't want to interrupt you. That's why I was gonna just. I've been holding this back. When it comes to the Versus series with the Marvel versus Street Fighter stuff, or like Marvel vs. Capcom, it really the same things apply. Ryu is more of a zoning character, and Ken is more out there, up in your face. You know, what I'm happy you were bringing up, like Shoryu Reppa and how you combo all of that in, because that's really how it is. And Jeremy, Follow Your Dreams, he actually plays a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom. That's actually how we know each other from the old school, like 20 years ago when we were playing these games. So shout out to Follow Your Dreams on that. Sean, is there anything else you wanted to say? I think, Dustin, you wanted to say something in response to that too, or you're good, man.
Yeah, just real quick. So this is aside from a tournament player's perspective. This is now we're looking at just your average Street Fighter 2 players that I played in the arcade, and this perspective. Okay, so I remember one time back when I was in Singapore, there was a buddy that I was working with, and we had both bought, I think it was Ultra Street Fighter 2, and we said, hey, I used to play that, right? Hey, so he was saying, yeah, I remember I used to play this in the arcade back whenever. So we got that game, and I remember one day, and I said, hey man, how come you pick Ken? I just asked him, what's the deal with Ken? How come you pick Ken? He's like, I just love the gold hair and the flashy robes, and that's like that was it. I picked Ken because Ken was super brash and super flashy and all that. And so for the average player, that was, wow, I'm going to pick Ken because he's super flashy versus Ryu. Yeah, Ryu's boring.
But that's how they kept Ken. That's really what they did. Yeah, that's why I think there was a whole, I think a lot of the players that I encountered, especially on Street Fighter 2, majority of them wanted to play Ken. That was my thing. I was more of a Ryu fan, but a lot of people I felt like liked Ken.
It was the gold hair. That's what it was.
That's what it was. In New York, New York City, that's how it was. Like, I'm New York City, bro. You know that's where you were at before. So that's mostly Ken's.
And one more thing. So, Red, because you were talking about hey, don't hate on the Banana Ken, right? The Street Fighter 5 tech. So, okay, so that actually there is that's not the first time we've seen that. That's a thing, and it actually originated from. I would say that I heard it around ST, but it could have been for the new challengers. But so Ken has that bright yellow color, and that's also already been referred to as Banana Ken.
The very first time I heard Banana Ken, I think I was playing what game?
5.
No, it wasn't 5 actually.
Probably like MVC
5.
or something, right?
Yeah, no, I think it could. If it wasn't MVC, I think it was X-Men versus Street Fighter or one of those older games. Because if you clicked a different button other than like your regular standard light punch, it gives you.
I know exactly
a fully yellow Ken.
Yes.
Marvel versus Street Fighter. You would get Banana Ken there,
dude. I picked it by accident, and then all of a sudden I'm like, yo, he literally looks like a whole banana. And they're like, "Oh, so you heard about Banana Ken?" And I'm like,
Banana Ken? Yeah, of course.
That's a thing.
That's a thing.
So anyway, I'll wrap it up with that one. But that's
no, you're good. You're good.
All right, Dustin. So what do you got? What do you got to say about this?
Go ahead, Dustin.
Oh, nothing.
He's like, oh, nothing.
I'm good.
Flat out, oh, nothing. Well, I would like for us to. I think we focused on Ryu and Ken a good amount. I do agree, like they both evolved and whatnot. I want to highlight the super chat from Bloodtide, bro. $25, really? Sakura, best Shoto, changed my mind. So I'm gonna tell you, when I saw Sakura, I'm gonna talk on this for a second. When I saw Sakura, I was like, oh, she's a little cute girl. But then, bro, when you started to play as her, I thought that she was pretty badass. And what I love the most is the dance. She's like, you know what I mean? I thought that was pretty badass. That's all I have to say about Sakura. Like, I also like the fact that I'll say this one last thing. I like the fact that she looks up to Ryu as more like a mentor, even though Ryu himself is on the whole self-discovery. So
I always did respect that.
Ray.
I kind of like that.
But I know he's talking with you about, and you guys went back and forth, and you guys are going to challenge each other in Street Fighter 5, Sakura versus Ken. Is that what's going on? Is that what I'm seeing happening in the chat? You guys are really going to do this? That should be funny. Okay. So what else you got to say about Sakura, Red?
Me, honestly, I can't say much about her. I haven't played her all that much. It's just so scary how a little cheerleader is a Shoto, and then all of a sudden her fucking skirt's flashing around while she's doing kicks, and it's irritating how she actually has a big damage output, but she's definitely not the best Shoto.
You know, I've seen some pretty good Shotos. Some pretty good Sakura players. There was shout out to Lord Sosa if he's watching or if he gets this. I believe he was the one that used Sakura in Street Fighter V in our last Street Fighter V tournament. He did pretty well with Sakura, so he may actually give you a run for your money with Sakura. And I wouldn't be surprised if Blitzhead knows how to use Sakura too. By the way, I gotta just say that.
I just
So-
like challenging him. It's fine.
I know you're having fun with that. That's all good.
Always.
So Dustin, anything about Sakura that you want to say, or how do you feel about Sakura, man?
I don't. I played her, but I didn't play that game very much. So
Okay.
no strong opinions.
All right. Sean, how you feel about Sakura?
I don't know about 5 because I'm really in Dustin's same boat. We really focus on the
Two?
more classic ones.
I know.
But what I can tell you though is that if I'm not mistaken, in Sakura and Alpha 2 when she first made her debut, same concept of how like she was a Shoto, but all those moves were like it was a different use for what she was doing, and but she was actually really strong. Like she had some really good mix-ups where she could cross you up, and she just got to hit you with 1 or 2 short kicks, and then all of a sudden you're eating that running dragon punch.
I was going to say that
So
running
cross over
DP.
2 short kicks and into the fierce dragon punch, and bam, 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 and then you can continue over and over. Her fireball utility was obviously different because instead of just a regular fireball, she had that one where you could like charge it up, by pressing the buttons, and you could. I think the theory was you were using it as almost like a fake fireball. So if you expected them to jump in, you would do the fireball. You hit 2 more punch buttons, and that big one would come out that had no range, but it was like right in front of her. That's what, or you could just kind of use it as a regular zoning tool. But yeah, everything, she fit the archetype. She had the fireball, she had the hurricane kick, and she had the fire and the dragon punch. But they were all completely different applications than how Ryu, used his. Completely different ways of going about that. And yeah, like so for you can just throw a dragon punch like normal, versus Sakura where that if you threw that dragon punch just raw like that, and it was blocked, then you were going to eat a huge custom combo and all that. So just completely different ways of playing that. Even though technically she's a Shoto, now you're starting to see the way that these playing styles really diverge, and like really completely different Marvel multiverse paths of how to play these characters and how to be successful with them, so on and so forth.
So while you were speaking, I was also highlighting comments from Follow Your Dreams from Jeremy because he brought out some really good things. I am not going to spend too much time focusing on it. I just want to acknowledge it. That's why I was highlighting it. What I do want to say is that you can't sleep on her in the Versus series either, because in the Versus series, you even have a dark version of Sakura. There's an evil Sakura in that, which is pretty cool. And I'm not going to get into it. I'm just going to throw that out so that people that are watching know about that stuff too, because she's got some pretty cool combos and mix-ups and all kinds of different things that she could do even in the Versus series as well. Like I'm talking about Marvel versus Street Fighter specifically. But I'd like to focus on the other characters as well before we wrap up and stuff. We brought up Sean earlier. What do you guys think of Sean? I mean, I guess we can start with you, Sean, because you are Sean. Now, when you played Street Fighter 3, did you feel like you wanted to pick up that character because of the name? Just curious, out of fun.
So when I played Street Fighter 3 in the arcades, this is a time when I wasn't really good at fighting games or anything like that. You just go in there and put a quarter in and choose your character and just kind of play, just for fun. So when at that point I was like, well, he has no fireball. What is this? And his fireball is tied to a super. It's kind of weird, Little did I know though that later on it turned out that he was actually an extremely powerful character, and one of the best in New Generation and Second Impact. So much so that they completely gimped him in Street Fighter 3 and really like nerfed him to the ground. So now, as far as his play goes, again, it's the same concept of where, like, technically as a Shoto, he has a Dragon Punch and he has a Tatsu, but they're completely
double
different.
fist Dragon Punch.
Completely different applications of how to use the character. So, do you call him a Shoto? Is he or is he not? Because sometimes it's the line, tough to tell.
He's under Ken's training. He's Ken's
yes.
So,
and if I remember correctly, Ken dropped him from training or something like that. If I remember what the endings of Street Fighter 3 taught me was something about that.
Man, I have to go back. I'm pretty sure you're right about this, but I think he did at one point, but I don't know the full story.
I know what it was. He fed him to Ryu.
He fed him. That's right.
If you can beat Ryu,
you're right.
Come back to me and I will train you. So basically, he dropped him because there ain't no way that Sean's beating Ryu, in the lore or whatever.
He did.
Yes.
And at that time, Ryu went to Goro for training, from what I remember as well. He was looking at, the one with the one arm and all that.
Yes.
So he went to him for training. But how do you guys feel about Sean, Dustin, and Red? What do you guys think about those Shotos? Dustin's just shaking his head like, no comment. Like,
yeah, I mean, Street Fighter 3 is the one I played the least.
Okay.
I can't even remember if I've played Sean or not.
I'm gonna tell you, Street Fighter 3 is fun. Like, the parry system in it is pretty cool. The fact that they introduced the whole parry system, a lot of people got turned off by that. But I don't want to like deep dive too much into it. I just wanted to throw that out there. We are running. Speaking of which, and I'm only going to take a moment, just a brief moment, to advertise this. We are running a Street Fighter 3 tournament. For those of you that are watching and have any interest in joining that, I'm going to put it on the screen. We're running a Street Fighter 3 tournament on Fight K2 on April 23rd. This is 12 p.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Central, or 3 p.m. Eastern. The link for it I will post in the chat right now real quick so that everybody can just click on that if you want to sign up. And all you got to do is try to open it in another window so you don't leave the stream. But this is the link to sign up for the tournament. Read the rules and regulations before signing up, please. If you're interested in playing in our Street Fighter 3 tournament that's coming up on April 23rd. And with that, I'm going to come back to our panel. Red, what do you think about Third Strike, man? What do you think about Sean?
So, Third Strike, when I played it, I don't even think I played the regular Third Strike. I think I played, it could have possibly been Alpha. Not 100%.
Okay.
But I think I played it on the PlayStation 2, and I really didn't. That was, I think, when I was first trying to learn Street Fighter on a better level, and I really wasn't able to get the mechanics down because simple things like, for instance, parries was, somebody just recently told me it was, you tap forward the right moment.
But you got to do it at the right moment.
Exactly.
It has to be at the right moment.
Otherwise, you're literally done. So I only really remember playing. I learned about Oro at the time, so I think for once that was the one character where it wasn't a Shoto that I actually played. Of course, there was Ken, there was Ryu, there was Akuma, but I never really touched Sean all that much. I didn't even know that he was a Shoto up until like a couple years after. I think you and I were having a conversation, and you're like, "Oh well, did you ever know about Sean?" I'm like, "The guy in yellow," and you're like, "Yeah."
Yeah, it's true. No, he's pretty cool. I actually thought the thing with the basketballs, I mean, that's kind of cliche to some degree, but I thought that it was pretty cool. I liked the double DP, and I liked his hurricane kick. I felt like it was a different take as well. I felt like playing him, he was like a different character, a little different, so on and so forth, here or there. So I did like it, and I thought that was pretty cool. I do want to keep us moving, though. So I'm going to save the best character for last, but before I do, I figured I'd go around and ask you guys what your opinion was of favorite Shotos, hands down. I'd like to know, Red6, what is your favorite Shoto? Because right now I think it's going to be a cross between different ones. Unfortunately, I think maybe Dustin had to leave. I know he said in the private chats that he had something else, that a previous obligation that he may have had to drop off. So if he comes back, he's welcome to. If he has to leave, that's cool. But what do you guys think about that? With regards to favorite Shotos, Red, you want to take this one?
It's really, and I feel like it's very, very difficult to really give who my favorite Shoto is, because I know a lot of the time it really depends on the type of Street Fighter that I'm playing.
Okay.
Because in Street Fighter 5, hands down, my most played character, the one that I've mastered or whatever, the one that I tend to like gravitate towards is Ken. If we're talking about Street Fighter 4, I absolutely love doing combos and playing around with Akuma. It was amazing because he had not just one but two different types of raging demons, and it was just a different type of play style. It was
Okay, so since 4 and 5 are your main games, all right, I'm gonna go and just down the list. Okay, Street Fighter 5. Who are you picking? Ken, Akuma?
Ken, 100%.
Okay, or
right
Ryu?
Under that, I would do Ryu, but
okay, all right. Street Fighter 4. Like, let's do it like rapid fire. Street Fighter 4.
rapid fire, Akuma.
Street Fighter 3.
Ryu.
Street Fighter 2. Okay, Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
That one was Ken, honestly, because
Okay.
I feel like that's where
That one
he,
has a cool one.
if I'm not mistaken, isn't that the one where he finally started getting the fire in his heavy SRK?
Well, that was Super
That was
Turbo
new
and
challengers,
Super. It was new
but
challengers.
it was yeah,
yes.
close enough.
Yeah. So once as soon as it started getting like Ken had that fire in his hand, I started just because the aesthetic of it, I started using Ken.
What about Akuma in that?
I never played him. He was always
Okay.
a hidden character. He
enough.
would just whoop my ass, and then I'd be on to the next.
Fair enough. Okay. So that's Super Turbo. What about regular Street Fighter
The
2?
regular, like
Hyper,
the base Street Fighter 2 was Ryu.
all out, like Hyper Fighting and Champion Edition and regular edition, you would say it was Ryu.
Yeah.
Okay. Alpha Series? Did you ever play the Alpha Series?
I think I did, but I don't think I used the Shotos much there. I think I used which one was Oro in?
Oro was in 3.
Oh, so
Like-
Alpha Series isn't even a no. Yes, I
He
don't think I ever
he
played
wasn't
Alpha.
in the Alpha Series. Oro came about Street Fighter 3. So
Yeah.
okay. Sean, what favorite Shoto overall? And if we ran it down, I'll do the rapid fire with you right after.
Okay, so probably I would say favorite Shoto just overall, and I'm looking at this from perspective is like you just like playing fighting games. Okay.
Yep.
Favorite Shoto overall probably is going to have to be Ryu, just because in each individual games, Ryu is mostly the same ish. So a lot of the stuff that you learn from one iteration of Ryu is likely going to work for all these other games. So you can go in there and, okay, I know how to play Ryu. I know how to play pretty good. I know, okay, he's a fireball zoner character. He has a good dragon punch. He has this. You can go into all these other games and you can do pretty well just knowing those basics. Again, Ken deviates, at certain games, like in 5, he's a completely different character. Like you said, Red, there's a lot of deviation there. But Ryu, for the most part, is going to be pretty similar across this wide spectrum of games. So I think, for overall favorite one, in my opinion, it'd probably have to be Ryu because, again, you can do a lot of damage. Look at someone like John Choi, Evo champion.
Oh man, I know.
And, man, he just plays Ryu in every game, and he takes people down with just the basics. He's not really abusing the mechanics of each game and all that. He's just throwing fireballs. I
wanted to. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I did want. I was actually thinking about preparing some clips. I wanted to prepare our my friend Ken240SX. He plays Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and he uses Shotos as a team. I wanted to show him playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2 with the Shotos team, because when you see that and you hear about that, majority of the time people are like, "Oh my God, Shotos and Marvel vs. Capcom 2? That's not where it's at. Come on, But my man Kin240SX knows how to play him well in that game, so shout out to him on that respect. And I wanted to show off John Choi because Choi, he played in our Capcom versus SNK2 tournament that we had, and man, I won't forget how he busted out the Shotos and that was intense. And we got to see some real good display. Now, I myself have seen him play Street Fighter 2 because, like I said, when I was studying and playing Street Fighter 2 again, a little here or there, I was watching his matches. I never got to play him in it because I know my ass is going to get whooped, but it's not about that for me. It's like I just to see it, just to whatever is pretty cool. Like I think he plays a lot similarly to like DJ Ilk in that game, in my opinion, because of the combos and stuff he did from what I saw. So I would say they're pretty on par with what their knowledge base with the Shotos are in that, from what I saw at least. I mean, what are your thoughts on the show?
Yeah, it's just understanding the fundamentals of Ryu and what he brings to the game. And it again, the way Choi plays all these, because he plays, these bunch of different games, and he uses, instead of like, I'm going to take this one individual game and exploit this system or exploit this and that, he brings just the fundamentals to the game, and he wins, and he does extremely well. He always consistent.
Fundamentals go a long way.
Yes. So like, as far as favorite Shoto, it's got to be Ryu hands down, because you pick up Ryu, that character, and now you can play all these different games, and you can be somewhat competitive too. That's the thing. Versus if you were to pick Ken, in all these different games, Ken is a little bit different, and there's a lot of differences that you're going to have to know. Whereas you really wouldn't have to do that with Ryu, because Ryu, you're already crouch medium kick into fireball. You're already baiting his dragon punch with whatever. Versus Ken, where again, all these games, Ken becomes a super different character in each one. So it's hard to have like a consistent standard. But with Ryu, you know exactly what you're going to get. So you can go into each game and you can play. In my opinion, that makes Ryu probably like one of the most important characters in fighting games, because that was the prototype character, and it was easy for people to understand. It's the jack of, or I would say the jack of all trades type character, where where you can go in there too. So Ryu hands down for sure, as far as overall the favorite Shoto, because he's so important.
That's how I feel about him. Like, that's my hands down response. Like, he's the jack of all trades. He's the one that can be applied and put into every single game. Shout outs to Steps Gaming. She's out there in the chat. If you guys haven't checked her out, definitely check out her YouTube channel.
How's it going?
Kristen runs some great tournaments and great events, so definitely check out her YouTube channel, guys. So shout out to my homegirl. But rapid fire, you ready?
Let's do it. All
right. Super Turbo.
ST Ken, just because I use him a lot and I enjoy his flashiness and the play style, all that.
It's the flashiness. Okay. New challengers, same thing.
New challengers, actually Ryu, because that they hadn't really deviated yet. ST was the one that went
a little bit more.
Really started fleshing things out separately. New challengers, they were somewhat similar. So in that case, I'll just say Ryu. Hyper fighting, Ryu. I like just like I said, because Ryu is just really powerful, and that Tatsu, man, it does so much damage to so many different characters. It got to be, and I love the color of the gi too. What is it? That real baby bluish.
Baby blue, yeah. It's like that's where I think it inspired the Alpha series. By the way, that's my thought process on that. But who knows?
Yeah.
Champion edition.
Champ edition. Also Ryu too as well, because it was the proto hyper Ryu. He still had the really good Tatsu, and it got the knockdown and all that. Extremely strong, and also I that was Champ edition was like, wow, it's a different color Ryu, not just the white gi. You got that dark gray thing on there too. So Ryu too as well.
Okay, and the OG, you would say probably the same thing with Ryu, right?
OG, for me, I was never like the super flashy guy. I preferred Ryu because it was more like, wow, this is Karate Master, versus Ken. The other people was like, wow, I love the Flash, so that's why they picked Ken. I was more reserved with that, so it was Ryu for that, for sure.
Okay. I'm kind of on the same boat with you, by the way, on that. All right, I'm going to take you a little bit out of your element. Alpha series, like Alpha 1, 2, 3? Would you say, or how do you feel about those?
Alpha 1, Ken, super good character, almost kind of broken in that game. For sure, I would choose Ken. And Alpha 2, I think they're pretty close actually to each other. I think Ken.
Don't limit yourself. Remember, there's other Shotos. You got Akuma, you got other things too. Just saying that.
Let's see here. No, I would still say Ryu because still Ryu's the base. I like that. I think Ryu for Alpha 2 is do well in every situation.
And Alpha 3.
Alpha 3, let's see here.
It's a little bit of a different system in Alpha. Alpha 3 had a lot more to it. It was like
the A3
you could
system
recover
is
in the
different.
air. There was like a lot more to it, I felt.
Actually, probably Akuma in that one because he had a lot of cool things. He could do that demon flip, and I saw some of these crazy the V-ism combos that he would do where he just not
do infinites in that game with just the demon flip alone. There's an infinite with that, if I recall correctly. Get him in the corner and just keep doing demon flip. It's been a while that I messed with it, but I remember something like that.
Yeah, so Alpha 3 for sure would be Akuma, I think. Yeah, that he's real flashy in that game.
Yeah.
He's super flashy in Alpha 3.
Okay, did you ever dive into the Versus series games? This is more like my specialty.
I played them when they came out of the arcades, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, any favorites in that?
X-Men versus Street Fighter. Oh, okay. Children of the Atom favorite was obviously Akuma.
He's coming, Tonka. He's coming. Go ahead, Children of the Atom. It was Akuma. Children of the Atom was just Akuma.
Yeah, it was Akuma. X-Men versus Street Fighter, it was also Akuma because I remember like when I found the code and I happened to go to the arcade. I was some magazine. I went to the arcade and all you have to do is just press up, above Magneto, whatever. Like, wow, Akuma. There it is. So yeah, favorite for sure would be Akuma.
Especially after Children of the Atom and what you had to go through. I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay. Marvel versus Street Fighter and Marvel versus Capcom stuff.
Let's see here. Marvel versus Street Fighter. I enjoyed the way Ken. I enjoyed the way Ken played in Marvel vs. Street Fighter. I didn't really know much about it, but I think like Ken. I think at that point he had the fireball that didn't quite. It was the diagonal one, but didn't. It stopped.
It didn't go all the way.
Yeah. So Ken, for no particular reason other than I liked using him, and the blue color, if I remember correctly, had that cool blue gi on. Yeah, so that color was really good in that one.
I thought it was the coolest color.
Yeah,
the blue one. Yeah, I agree with you on that. So, Street Fighter 3, how'd you feel about that one?
Well, Ken all the way, because competitively, his setups were so easy to do, and you could off of a crouch forward kick. Off a crouch forward kick, you can land any super you wanted, and he was just his utility was too good. I actually liked the animation that they did with his dragon punches too, especially his fierce dragon punch. Looked really good. Like the whole Street Fighter 3 was based off of, great 2D animation, but that one to me was like, wow, it was looked really good. They did a really good job on that one. So for sure, Ken, yeah.
So 4 and 5.
Let's see here. The 4 again, Ryu, because I remember everybody watched Daigo beasting on everybody with Ryu, and at that time he was still really powerful. So had to be Ryu for that one.
And 5
and then you. So 5 so the thing is that that's where I hadn't really played much fighting games was during 5, I think. So I remember messing with the demo when it first came out, and then after that I didn't really touch it again.
Okay.
Yeah, like I just the system was a little bit too different for me.
Well, who would you go to? Who'd you pick? Just curious.
I would just pick different characters because I wasn't like comfortable with just whatever. I mean, Ryu was always Ryu, but I remember I felt like he had like dinosaur arms in that game. So this was Ryu. This is his leg length.
Look at Red.
You would go there and
what are you gonna say, Red? Go ahead, because I know how much you love Ryu in that. Go ahead.
Okay,
don't
so
be
tell me.
Disrespectful now.
Okay. I would play a little bit of 5. Okay.
I know what he means though. That standing medium does not have a lot of range. It looks like
you would just get out footsied by anything, and I'd be sitting there. I'm gonna try to do his crouching short or crouching forward, and then the crouching strong or whatever. And it really was just like
Shotos there.
Yeah, you would get man, I'd get bopped by kicks from anybody, and I'm like tearing my hair out. So that one I actually don't have an opinion, because I remember playing as Ryu and say, okay, I'll see what I can do, and then half my move just whiffing, man. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So yeah, that's we'll see what happens in 6. I am looking forward to seeing how 6 comes out. Yeah,
that's gonna be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, guys, I'm going to start winding down. We're going towards the end. I have to bring attention to the best Shoto of them all, Dan. What is your take on Dan? I'll start with Red. What do you have to say about Dan?
My facial expression isn't enough?
I'll tell you my take on it, though. But you go ahead. I'm going to hear you out.
So Dan, I feel like, is the baby Shoto, the one who never fully evolved or mastered the
don't limit your imagination.
No, I don't. I know that
13,
he is crazy. Don't get me wrong.
He's really good with him in Street Fighter 5. He
I don't
pretty
doubt
far
it.
in the last Street Fighter 5 tournament we had.
I don't doubt it. All I'm saying is
saying,
Dan
even
doesn't even have a real Hadouken. He literally just spits out a little. It's like a little.
My favorite, and I don't know if you've seen this in the Marvel vs. Street Fighter, is he has a raging demon, but it's backwards. And when he catches you with it, he ends up hurting himself instead. He gets a string of life left, and it barely does any damage to the opponent. It's hilarious. If you've ever seen it. Now, Follow Your Dreams said Dan Hibiki is the GOAT. There's no better feeling beating up other players with the Psycho Master. Super taunt, infinity taunts, overcoming the odds. It's true. That's what I was going to say. Is if you can beat people with him, come on. I mean, even like in the Marvel vs. Street Fighter game, he's and also the Alpha Series game, I felt like his Tatsu was good because you can confuse people. I would get people with a light Tatsu, and then if I saw that I was getting people with the light Tatsu, I would do the heavy because the heavy would do the 3 hits. And then I would just mix them up and do them randomly. So that was something that I did, for example, with Dan, I remember back in the day. So, and like Bloodtide said, he's a legit character in 5, so don't limit your imagination, Red, because like I said, Jam 13, he plays a really good Dan in Street Fighter 5. So shout out to him on that. Sean, what is your take on Dan, man?
Well, the Dan character I remember mostly from Alpha 2, and I didn't see him a whole lot in Alpha, but Alpha 2 I think was where, like, okay, Dan was visible, without having to do the code and all that. And so, obviously he was meant to be a joke character. He was a cross between
exactly.
Rio and who was it? Robert Garcia, I believe, from the Art of Fighting series.
From the Art of Fighting, yes.
So that it was meant to be just a jab at that series. And
I have a little more insight on that, but I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
It's basically Steven Seagal and Ryo Sakazaki wrapped into one. Is what Dan is. So anyways,
he does have a Seagal look.
So his Alpha 2, just like what was saying, was he was meant to be a joke character, and I've seen people use him though, like recently, this last few years, people that know how to play the Alpha 2 games really well, and they actually do some good work with him, and he does. So most of his normals are kind of trash, except for his jumping short, for whatever reason, has just a decent hitbox that he can kind of do just a jump short and get something going from that. And he actually has some pretty damaging custom combos too. So like you were saying, the Tatsus, if you sit there and you blow the custom combo, I think hit crouch roundhouse, and then immediately chain that into his whatever they're called, the Tatsus, you can get some really good damage off of that. Like you
can even do the light DPs over and over, and that does really good damage from what I remember. Yeah,
it's something like 40% or something, even off a 1, just a level 1, type deal. So, like I said, he's meant to be a joke character, and by most accounts he is. But then when you get somebody in the right hands that know how to use him, now all of a sudden he becomes a little bit of a threat. It's not so easy to just take down this dude. And then as far as like the lore is concerned with that, like I do like the fact that they were really just taking jabs at this and that. Like he had the taunt, right? the gusta. I don't know what he's saying.
Yeah, the muscles coming up.
Yeah, and the Yahoo and all this. And he had the super taunt that he was the one that actually had a taunt that was just meant to just
the super taunt is the best. I love that thing. They have it. I think the very first time I saw it,
Shoto.
He is
a pain in your ass.
Absolutely.
And it's just annoying.
I think it was Marvel versus Street Fighter that the first time I saw the super taunt. I don't know if it was in the Alpha series that were the first. But what I wanted to say with regards to the lore is he's actually the face is actually of one of the developers. I don't know if you guys knew this or not. And it was they put him in as a spoof, just like what you were saying, Sean. But it was Alpha 1 where they decided to do that. They put him in Alpha 1, and then they rolled with it. He kept going on and evolved into it because he had some really good. I think he developed a fan base. Honestly, I think it was funny that they did that.
They actually did do so if you look at Alpha 1 through Alpha 3, and I think it was a Marvel vs. Street Fighter where he had that one where he was signing the autograph or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. And then he throws it out.
Yeah. He throws it out, yeah. So if you look at the very first Alpha Dan, his face is different, just like you mentioned, and some of his animations the animations are closer to the original Art of Fighting. I think Ryo, where he does the fireball, but he does it like this.
He does, yeah.
So in Alpha 2, they changed that out and they made the animations a little bit different, and the hair and the face got changed slightly. But I remember laughing when I saw Alpha 3, and then his standing stance. They completely made it look like ridiculous, with the bow legs and all that.
Yeah. Like a ballerina or something.
Yeah. Like they really just like pushing the joke character status up to extreme, Yeah, they did something with Sean in Third Strike like that too as well. If you look at the way that he was in the first two games, then the third game, the animations are completely different, and they made it like, what the heck is this? So yeah, Dan was I think it's funny because he's become just as iconic as a Shoto.
He has
being a joke that Ryu has and Ken has being serious characters.
They've even incorporated him into things like even the movies, like the Assassin's Fist movie. There's a scene where Ken is going through different students in the dojo, because if you go through Street Fighter lore, Dan did study with Ryu and Ken at some point in one story, and then in another, I think it was the movie. They basically mentioned that he was part of the dojo, but I don't think Ryu and Ken had actually met him in the movie version. So it depends on where you're really learning that or you're reading it. And then there's a whole thing about his father, that Sagat really defeated his father, and that Sagat ended up killing his father, and that's why he's out for revenge and to for his dad and all of that. So there's, I thought that the character concept itself, the story behind it was pretty cool. Like, I'm a big fan of the whole Street Fighter lore itself, and I'm a big fan on that stuff. And there really is a huge fan base on that. So I wanted to save Dan for last. I wanted to say that this was, there are definitely other Shotos, like Guy, for example, where we briefly touched up on them. And if maybe I missed something else, let me know. But I think we had a pretty good discussion with this, and I would like to thank both of you guys for your time, and Dustin as well, who had to leave. But thanks all of you guys for really coming out today. If there's anything else you guys want to bring up regarding this topic, feel free. Let me know.
Just what I can say real quick is, since this is about Shotos, if anybody is looking to get into fighting games or whatnot, or if you're already into fighting games, like we said earlier, that standard Ryu Shoto archetype is something that once you learn that one, that will carry you pretty far in a lot of games, and you can go there and have fun, be competitive and all that, and really enjoy yourself, whilst not having to go into deep dives in every single little thing. You can go out there, because there's not a lot of people that have time to sit there and grind and get good at everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's not feasible for a lot of people. So for people like that, it's definitely, you know, getting used to how Shotos play and all that, will be able, you know, to
I
transfer
totally agree.
across a wide variety of fighting games for you.
Because you're doing that quarter circle forward, you're doing the dragon punch motions in different games. Like I can take these things and apply it to King of Fighters, or even like Tekken to some degree. Like there's different move sets that carry from all these games. Like Street Fighter 2, I think, was the one that kind of defined everything and started everything. Like Red may disagree because he's a Mortal Kombat fan more than a Street Fighter fan. You see him smiling. Because, you know, back in the day, it was when you went to the arcades, it was either Street Fighter 2 or it was Mortal Kombat. Like, we know.
Mhm.
We all know. But I would say Street Fighter was, like, no offense to any Mortal Kombat. Street Fighter was the go-to for the most part. Let's be real.
I will explain the difference. I'm gonna be very casual and nice about it because here's
I
the
flat
honest truth.
out threw dirt in the eye on that one. Sorry.
Nope, it's fine. I won't disagree. I will say
I got nothing
that,
against Mortal Kombat, just for the record.
no, I know, but for the record, I feel like the best way to describe any of these games, okay, the best way to explain it is Street Fighter was probably more popular and more accessible to people because Mortal Kombat was known as the more gory, the more like it was more
Adult-based
bloodier, and it was yes, exactly, it was a more an adult based game than anything because it just had that gore and that blood
Street Fighter was
factor.
friendly for everybody.
Exactly. People of all ages could sit down and enjoy. I started playing Street Fighter at like the age of 3 on that Super Nintendo, and it was I could have played it, and mom or dad or whoever wouldn't have an issue because it's just whatever.
Yep, that's what
And-
it was.
But Mortal Kombat was a little bit of a different ball game because you had
That's why on
you had
home
your
console
brutalities.
versions, you could shut off the blood in the home console versions of Mortal Kombat.
really, yeah. See, like that, I didn't even know that. I remember playing Mortal
Okay.
Kombat 4 on like what was it?
I'm pretty
dude?
sure you remember that.
Nintendo 64, dude. That was a throwback. Nintendo 64, dude. And it was bloody and it was pretty graphic even for its time, you know. Like, I feel like if you like the more graphic version of fighting, I mean, even between the two, to be honest, they don't even play similarly. It's just they both had their ups and downs. Street Fighter was user friendly. Anybody could have played it, so I feel like that's what allowed more people to gravitate towards it.
See, that would probably make for a whole good fight talk. Talking about Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat comparisons.
We could do that.
Yeah,
I
I know
can give
you. I know
you,
you love that.
I can
But-
give a
but Sean,
quick
go ahead.
example of this, about the difference between, or not differences, but just Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat as it happened. So basically, what happened was Mortal Kombat took over the Street Fighter phenomenon. So Street Fighter came in, it was a huge phenomenon.
Oh yeah.
But then all of a sudden, you know, Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2 started hitting, and now you saw the arcade demographic shift away from Street Fighter 2, and they went on to Mortal Kombat because you were a kid, right? So why would you not, you know, are you going to go choose Ryu, or you're going to go see Sub-Zero rip out somebody's spine? You know,
Exactly.
like that's
That's
what it was, the natural transition, the natural progression of things, you know. Later on in life, now you start saying, oh yeah, okay, I like Street Fighter more, or somebody else, I liked Mortal Kombat more. The nice thing about it is that they had their own fan bases, and they were big enough to be able to have those fan bases.
Yeah.
Versus like one fan base took from another, so this game died out. It wasn't like that. They both had very distinct, separate fan bases that didn't really mess or didn't take away from each other. But the natural progression in the beginning was, Street Fighter 2, the phenomenon, and then Mortal Kombat took it over. Again, like I said, you know, because you get to see Scorpion rip off the thing, and like it just took
Sub-Zero.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Right,
Scorpion
right.
ended up. Yeah.
Of course, the kids, you want to see, so you want to
Like,
rip the dude's spine off.
Oh yeah, the fatalities was like everybody else wanted to. There was even like cheat sheets and stuff. People would pay money just to get
Absolutely.
the codes, just so that they can go to the arcades and look like they were the cool kid, you know, doing the like what Bloodside's saying that's the blood code to enable
A
blood.
B A C A B B. Yeah, yeah.
I remember that.
And
Sega had it defaulted as turned off.
that was the best
well.
part, was that each, like I said, they were both were so big that they had their own fan bases, and there was never one at the detriment of the other.
Right.
Matter of fact, they probably made each other better because now competition was there, and
Yeah.
bar had to get pushed higher and higher and higher.
It really pushed the limitations because each side brought what they had to the table. So you really got to pick and choose, and each one was great. But then at the end of the day, what do you want more? Do you want the flashy, or do you want the violence and the blood and the graphic? Or even if you had this one, every now and then you'd want to go back to the original. And it's like, yeah, the competition started. I'm glad neither one had killed out the other. I feel like it forced them to get better and to progress and evolve. So in a very, very indirect manner, I'm very happy and thankful that it had turned out the way that it did, because I'm loving the newer titles, man. Mortal Kombat 11, Street Fighter 5, those are the great games.
I'm happy you brought that up. I was gonna ask you if you wanted to touch up upon the thing that we're talking about with you and Bloodside, with the Street Fighter versus Mortal Kombat. If you want to talk about that a little bit, I'll let you say a few words on that.
So, few words. I guess I'll just describe it as it is. A matchup of first to. Honestly, I'm still kind of confused on the rules.
Do you want me to explain it?
All I know is that Bloodside and I would definitely love to do a match where it's 50% Street Fighter, 50% Mortal Kombat. We go head to head, kind of like a final round where it's randomized with characters.
In a final round fashion form.
Yeah. And
so Sean, I think I mentioned to you once or twice maybe what a final round is. I'd actually like to show you real quick. I don't know what your time availability is.
I didn't know if it was 5 or 10, but 10 each game. I feel like that's pretty fair. It won't last too long either.
Let me share the screen so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. So this is what a setup for final round looks like. I'm actually in the software that I stream with, but this is what it would look like. You'd get the game in the middle. You'd have a blue corner and a red corner, right? Player 1 versus player 2. Let's say basically you're spinning a wheel. It's doing a random select. You don't have a choice. It's basically fate versus fate. So let's say, Sean, you were playing, I don't know, Noxuka, let's say. And let's say you guys, like, you're on player 1 side and Noxuka is on player 2. You would spin the wheel. Whatever character you get, you would pick. So let's say you got Ryu, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say you were playing against, let's say Noxuka ends up getting Fei Long. So let's say you won. If you were to win, we're then going to blank out Fei Long on his side. And it's basically a last man standing. Now, this is how final rounds would work. And this is what we're going to be doing. So if anybody wants to do that, I'm ready with regards to Street Fighter 2. Let me show you what the other ones are. We've got Champion Edition ready to go. We got we've got Hyper Fighting ready to go. I mean, really, it's like basically the same palette, if you will.
Yeah.
We've got Street Fighter 3. Shout out to Bloodside. He helped me out with this one a little bit.
That looks amazing, actually. I like the aesthetic of it.
It's pretty good because it's a different format. They're circular. They're not boxy. We've got all the Versus series ready to go. And I know this is a little outside of, like the Street Fighter realm, but all of this stuff is pretty much ready to go so that we can start doing these final round matches. So that's a whole thing. Now, what these guys want to do is pretty much the same concept, but it'd be a first to 5 or first to 10. So
probably a first to 10.
So it'd be like what he just said, a first to 10. So you do, the set game, whether it's Street Fighter 5 or Mortal Kombat, and whoever gets 10 characters off first is the winner. In their case, they would do Street Fighter 5, and then they would do Mortal Kombat. So I even got Marvel versus Capcom 2. This is
A very lengthy roster.
Very big roster. But yeah, that's all set up and ready to go as well. And then I've even started doing Mortal Kombat and some other games as well. But any other game, anybody wants to do something for it, they just have to let us know, and we'll get that going, and we could set up a date and time to do this. So Sean, I if you'd like to challenge someone to this, I'd love to set you up to play whoever, whether it's like Dustin or Naksukao or whatever, because it's a game by chance. Like I know you're great Vega, but I feel like this kind of brings out people that say, oh yeah, I'm really good at, let's say, Street Fighter 2, right? But most people master one character. To walk around and say, yeah, I know the game inside out, that's a whole other ball game. This actually takes people out and puts them into a different perspective and element, and if they really do know the entire roster, you should have no problem with it, and then you can walk around and say, yeah, I know I'm really good at Street Fighter 2 or Super Turbo or whatever, you know what I mean? That's just my take.
Definitely.
And that's what I'm hoping to do with this, and start to actually create these events and whatnot. So that's where we're at with this. But with Red 6 and Bloodtide, we're gonna do Mortal Kombat 11, right? Red 6, and we're gonna do Street Fighter 5, right?
Yep.
So I will, but again, it's gonna be like they'll spin the wheel, and rather than seeing all the characters right off the bat, it'll be like playing chess. They'll get those different character portraits appear on their side until the first one gets 10 of them. That's really what we're going to do for Red 6 and Bloodtide. So
that seems like a fun format there too as well to kind of switch it up a little bit.
Oh yeah, we did a final round before, way back. Let me see if I could pull it up. We did. Let's see.
We did Tonka against Ken.
Oh, there was a good amount of them actually. So let me go to the live stuff. So we did. The last one was INDK versus Morphus 56K, is what we did in Marvel versus Capcom, and then we did. Kristen and Lord Sosa in Marvel vs. Street Fighter, and then we did Ken 240 and Tonka. Yeah, that was the very first one that we ever did. That was I would say it's in our playlists. I think there's a playlist called Final Round, if I'm not mistaken. If not, I have to probably add it here. Yeah, I thought we had.
No, you just passed it.
I did?
Yep. There it is.
Yep. So this is everything Final Round based. So there's a total of, this is just the trailer. I don't know if the sound actually goes through or not, but this is the trailer for it.
So for the next one coming up, it's gonna be Blood versus Red, right?
It'll be Bloodtide and Red 6. Another one that we've got going on is it's going to be Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 with Welcome to Die and Lord Sosa. But there have been different requests, different things. But whoever wants to do it, I will work with them, and I will work over their schedule. So if, let's say, you want to set something up and you want to challenge somebody, let me know. I will be happy to host it. So just, let me know if you or anybody wants to do that. Anybody that's watching, we'll get that going, because this is something that we started doing like a year ago, and we're just all over the place. But the real reason why I didn't continue it was because I felt like I wasn't prepared. Now I feel like I'm better prepared for it.
I think we've prepared a decent amount. We have a few templates and a few we have a few things just on standby and ready to roll out, and whenever we need to, we just just present and perform, and that's it.
Even for that set, Red, first to 10 sounds about right, because that gives you a good amount of gameplay without it getting too long.
Yeah.
And if there were first to 5s, that'd be a little bit short,
too
because
short.
it might be
Yeah.
in a flash. So yeah, first to 10 sounds about the right way to go.
Yep, Bloodside said the same thing. Probably.
So
10
it would be
each game.
first to
That's
10
exactly it.
on Street Fighter 5. Whoever gets the
Mhm.
10, and then on Mortal Kombat you jump, and then we do the same thing. First to 10.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think that makes for good viewing, while being in the right like time bracket too as well.
Yep. We don't
Not
wanna
too
spend
lengthy, but also not too
much time.
short.
Correct. Yeah.
Speaking of lengthy, I appreciate you guys tonight. We're a little over 2 hours at this point. I think it's safe to say that we've spent a great deal of time talking about Shotos. Do I feel like we can talk more? Oh yeah, I feel like we can keep
100%.
going and going and going. To be honest with you, I feel like everybody here has a vast knowledge about fighting games and can bring something to the table. So I appreciate you both. I appreciate Dustin. I appreciate Shaft of Pleasure. Shout out to the utility man as well, my right hand man with this stuff. I know things happen, so it's all good. Don't sweat it, brother. Again, thank you, Shaft, for coming in and filling in as well. Sean, thank you for being here tonight. I'd like to set something up in the future with you so we can focus more about you. I'd like to hear your background. I'd like to hear your story. And for those of you that don't know who Ultra Sean is, definitely check out the link of the description of this video, because I included Ultra Sean's YouTube channel. So definitely check that out. He's got a killer intro. That was so nice, bro. When I saw that thing, I was like, wow. Like, he has a killer intro, very professionally done. Like studio quality stuff, and he's got some great material on his channel. Definitely subscribe as well. So definitely check out my man Ultra Sean, and don't forget about the man at the bottom, Red6. I've also linked him into the description of the video. Check out him on Twitch. Check out him on YouTube. He mainly plays first-person shooters, but also plays Street Fighter 5. I would say, and you streaming Mortal Kombat as well, or are you just doing Street Fighter 5?
Every now and then I'll jump back on it, but I haven't really gotten back. I just realized how different the two games are. So when I was trying to fierce kick and it blocked, I was like, what? Hello?
I got you. Well, I guess you better start playing between these two.
Yep, I gotta come back.
You're gonna have your matchup with Bloodside. So
Oh, I'm not worried about that one though.
Shots fired.
Ooh, definitely shots fired. I think Bloodside is out there in the chat. I'm pretty sure he's going to say something any minute. But
I'm waiting for it.
I might not stick around for this one, guys. Thank you both for your time. I appreciate it. Hang on back. I'm going to go ahead and stop the stream. And thank you, everybody that's tuned in and was watching. I hope it was educational. I hope some of you guys who did not know certain things about Shotos learned. I hope it brings a whole light into the Shotokan characters, because honestly, Shotos are really cool, and I felt like they deserve some spotlight. So I'm always open to different discussions as well. So if anybody has something they'd like to bring to a fight talk, reach out to me or reach out to any members of the Fighters Evolution team, and we'll make it happen. Bloodside did get a comment in. He said he knows better, so we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I do know better. Exactly my point.
With that, I'm ending the stream. You guys have a good one. Later.